I will talk to you about what I teach. I teach international law. And I'm not sure that some of you here are very familiar with how works international law. International law is made by states for states. If you are not a state, if you are an entity that would like to be recognized as a state, as Palestine, you have not access to all these regulations, all these treaties until now. You can be, it's okay or not for you, but until now, treaties can only be ratified and signed by states. If you are not a state, you are out of international law. So, what I would like to present today is what can be done once this decision has been taken by President Trump. And we will see that there are some things that took place at the UN General Assembly, at the United Security Council. But I think that every state, every single state in the world that believes in the force of international law and that understand that this decision is an absolute negation of the international law should react, and react strongly or with a shy reaction. You know that the diplomatic language is very rich on how to balance, modulate the message you want to send to the US. But I think that it's important for all the states to react and not to let too much time passing without a strong reaction. The decision was taken on December 4th, announced by President Trump. On 24 December, Guatemala, in Central America, announced that they will also move their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I think that time has come to make something that is beyond a single official communique condemning the decision of President Trump. So, the first reaction was at the UN General Assembly. I'm sure that some of you are familiar with, that took place on December 21 with the following result: 128 states in favor, 9 abstentions, and and 35 abstentions. And you will see now the register votes. There are black places, and these black places are the no-show. When you are like here at the UN General Assembly, suddenly you have delegations that are going out of the room, and it's not for physical problems or bathroom reasons. No, it's an instruction. Please go out of this room because there is a vote and we don't want to participate in this vote. Usually states that have, let's say, conscious of international matters, of the importance of the Middle East question, do not use this option. It is called no option. So this is the results. So you have, for those of you that are not familiar with, in red, the abstention, the vote against. So we have, of course, the traditional anti-Palestinian islands, Micronesia, Palau, Nauru, Israel and US, of course. And this time we have Togo from Africa, and in Central America, Honduras and Guatemala. These 2 states receive some kind of pressure, some kind of other things to endorse the position of the US at this General Assembly. I am not sure, and this is a problem that we have with the states, that the population of Guatemala and the population of Honduras was consulted before taking this extremely very questionable decision. You have the abstentions that are the yellow colors. So abstentions is usually taken by a delegate when he receives instruction to abstain, or he has no instruction. He doesn't know what to do, and he doesn't want to use the no-show option. So he abstained. But behind this abstention, it's possible that you have pressures, very important pressures from the US Department of State and, of course, from Israel. So you have among these abstentions, you have the Czech Republic, you have Croatia, you have Mexico, you have Poland, Philippines, Panama, South Sudan. I mean, Israel is very good making pressure, and his prime minister is very insisting when using the phone when he has to call his colleagues that are head of states. And of course, you have the 128 countries that vote in favor of this resolution. You have all the European Union, with the exception of, as I said, Hungary and the Czech Republic and Croatia. And you have the no-show. And look that the no-show has been used, for example, in Latin America by Colombia. It's the first time, I think, that Colombia used this option, not to be in the room, out. I want my delegate out of the room. El Salvador, which is a very small country near Costa Rica, maybe exactly the same. And other countries like Kenya, like Malawi, like Lithuania, use also this option. I mean, look the kind of pressures that receive these states to obtain such a result. I mean, 128 states in favor of a resolution is a good number, but look the number of abstentions and look the 24 states that opted to the no-show. Again, it's an option that usually the states don't like to use because it's to accept that they have no idea or they don't want to participate in the vote. Now, this took place on December 21, last December. But before that, a few days before, exactly the same text was voted at the United Security Council. And this is much more interesting for me. It was voted a few days before at the United Security Council with a complete diplomatic disaster for the US. The vote was 14 votes, including UK, including France, China, of course, and Russia, against a single one state. This is a disaster for the US Department of State. It's a complete disaster for Israel not to have been able to make the pressures to obtain maybe not a vote endorsing the US veto, but an abstention or something in this way. So the last time that we have had the 14 votes in favor and one against was during the Obama administration on February 2011, when we saw again all the Security Council, including UK, France, voting a resolution to condemn the colonization in West Bank and Jerusalem. Again, for those of you that are not familiar with, from the political point of view, this kind of numbers at the United Security Council is a disaster for the US. So we have a consensus, we have a rule. The rule is the veto of the US, but behind this vote, you see that there is a very good consensus among the rest of the permanent members at the United Security Council. I invite you, once the resolution is voted, it's public, and you have also the procès-verbal, let's say the meeting and the discussion that took place, where every state, the UK, France, China, and the others, explained the vote. And it's very interesting for you that live in this country to compare the Palestinian position of Ambassador Raed Mansour with the French and the UK discourse given at the United Security Council. For the first time in many, many years, we have a very close position between France and the UK with Palestinian position. And this is, I think, it's something that has to be optimized and capitalized, because it's really something that normally do not happen at the UN Security Council, where you have traditionally the UK endorsing or trying to endorse or to be closer to US position than to the position of the others. So, this broad consensus expressed at the UN Security Council should be optimized with two kind of actions that I propose, but there are many others, and I am ready to discuss many others. One, the necessity of the recognition of Palestine as a state, and the second, a possible advisory opinion to be requested to the International Court of Justice about the legality or not very legal aspect of Trump decision. Again, these are the things that we can do at the UN General Assembly, at the UN Security Council, because we are a state. If you are not a state, you do not enter in this game. First of all, the recognition of Palestine as a state. Well, I will take the study as a case study, the recognition made by Costa Rica. In February 2008, Costa Rica decided to recognize Palestine as a state. Some of you have been in Costa Rica, maybe. It's a nice jungle, nice tourist destination, nice everything. It's not so breezy as London in March. But you have to know that behind this, there is an historical, very close relation of Costa Rica with Israel and the US. In 1982, Costa Rica and El Salvador made what Trump is doing. They moved their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That's why Costa Rica has historically had a problem with the Arabic community because of this presence, illegal presence, in Jerusalem. So in 2006, we have had the opportunity to have as a president a Nobel Prize, Mr. Oscar Arias, and he understood that Costa Rica had to change this position. And they moved in 2007 the embassy from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, so to be in conformity with international law. And in 2008, they decided to recognize Palestine as a state. And when doing so, that's why I took the text official. They say, I will read it in Spanish and after in English. Costa Rica reconoció el Estado de Palestina el 5 de febrero honrando una deuda histórica, especialmente por haber sido uno de los 33 países que votaron a favor de la resolución que aprobó el plan de partición. En este sentido, Costa Rica es del criterio que la comunidad debería contribuir activamente a la solución, generalizando este reconocimiento. In my limited English, the non-official version is Costa Rica has recognized the state of Palestine last February 2008, honoring a historical debt, especially due to the fact that with 33 other states, Costa Rica voted in favor of the partition plan. On this respect, Costa Rica considers that the international community must actively contribute to the solution of the conflict between Palestine and Israel, generalizing this recognition. It's very simple. The argument is very simple. We owe a debt with the Palestinian people. There is too much time that has passed without any solution, so we are going to honor this long debt, saying, okay, we vote in 1947 the partition plan, now it's time has come to recognize Palestine as a state. And I talk with you, I take with you the official, the WikiLeaks cable. It's very interesting for us, the WikiLeaks, because we understand how the US understand what happened on this issue. And look what they say, that a complete surprise to most local diplomatic missions, including posts. I come from Costa Rica. I know that no decisions are taken without a leak to the US Embassy. How Costa Rica found the way to avoid any leak to the US Embassy is the question I still have. So you can say to me, okay, this is a Costa Rica problem with Israel, with Palestinians. I will try to convince you that it's much more than this. Following Costa Rica, these are the countries that understood the message and took exactly the same decision to recognize Palestine as a state. Look at the list of the countries. 10 years after the decision taken by Costa Rica, we have all Latin America recognizing Palestine as a state, with two exceptions, the two major receptors of US cooperation, Colombia and Panama. But all the rest understood the message sent by Costa Rica. And I have a question, if some of you here are from Lebanon, why Lebanon suddenly discovered in 2008 that Palestine was waiting for a recognition as state? And the same question can be done to Syria recognition in 2011. So the call was clearly understood against a WikiLeaks scandal. They analyzed the decision of Costa Rica on as follows. It seemed to have a well-reasoned rationale for recognizing the state of Palestine, taking into account Costa Rica's yes vote on the resolution, and the government of Costa Rica desired to give a strong show of support to Abbas in the face of Hamas. This is the understanding made by the political analysts in San Jose of this decision. I use WikiLeaks in all my papers, and I recently discovered that a recent case here in UK, they recognize value, legal value, to WikiLeaks cabs. It's very important. I mean, it's confidential cabs, diplomatic confidential cabs that are published, and we have now a case here in the UK where these documents can be used before tribunals. And I invite you on the Palestine item to look all the things that you find in WikiLeaks. You can write not one book, 2 or 3 books. It's really a great thing to do. Well, so I invite all the countries that have not recognized Palestine at the moment to try to think if it's not the moment to do so. Sweden recognized Palestine in 2013. Sweden is a member of the European Union. Nothing especially dramatic happened in Sweden, except in Donald Trump's mind. And I think that unilaterally, the members of the European Union can now think if this could not be a response to Donald Trump's decision. The other possibility is to request to the UN General Assembly an advisory opinion. This is a procedure that is not open to state, but to UN bodies like the General Assembly, the Security Council. And you have to know that there is an interesting precedent in 2004 about the illegality of what Israel still officially called a fence. That's Israel, that we don't care about. But the decision was taken in July 2000, an advisory opinion. What is the interesting thing for international lawyers? That during the international procedure, we have the possibility of having all the countries giving their opinion about the subject. So these are possibly things that we should think about on how to respond legally, having a legal interpretation of Donald Trump's decision. It's a possibility. Unfortunately, I like to speak, and I am very limited with the time here. So this is the list of the countries that participate in this advisory opinion on the war in Jerusalem, West Jerusalem and Palestine, occupied territory, and this is some of the biography I would like to share with you. So this article of Mr. Mark Coverdale, Robert, is very important. For the first time in the UK, WikiLeaks documents have legal value. Thank you very much.
Thank you.